This is the hardest one for me to narrow down. I have been all over the
You
board
said
and
that
back.
already about, I think, a couple of these, but
I know. I swear this one was the worst.
hi, welcome to the guest list with Patrick Hicks. Today I am joined by Emmy-nominated writer Jen Capra. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
So, we like to start talking a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, when you first started getting really into music. Tell me a little bit about that. Where were you born?
Sure. So I was born in, well, on the South Shore of Boston. So I'm from the Boston area. That's why the accent comes in and out. You'll hear it, especially if I'm talking about it. But yeah, so my mom grew up in Dorchester, and my dad's
There
from
it
like
was.
Alston, Brighton. Yeah, I can't say it not with that. I only know it by ear. It's yeah. So I grew up in that area, and I'm just was raised by someone who there was always music around.
Mhm.
And my nana was an Italian immigrant, so she was always singing and had all these stories about like when they lived when she was a girl growing up in the city, like when it was still like dirt roads and like carriage houses and things, which is wild to think about. They had like a standing what like one of those upright pianos in the
Mm.
hallway of their apartment, and they would play and like dance up and down the hallway. And so she has all these great stories of like growing up in that neighborhood with like, all of her siblings and all the neighbors, and her mom took care of boarders. So there would be like random sailors renting a cot in the dining room, and and they would all hang out and eat and dance. And so music's always been a cornerstone of everything we did.
Do you have a specific song that reminds you of your childhood?
So the funny thing about that, I was thinking about what song. I had so many options, right? Like, because it's like, what kind of memory are you tapping into? And then I had this flash of, my mom, she did theater when she was younger, and she always loved to sing, but she never got to pursue it. But in the house, she was always singing around the house and always playing music. She had like one of those big cabinet stereo record players, so always playing music. And she loved a wide variety, like a lot of like hippie stuff, being her age group, but she loved also, she still loves Barbara Streisand.
Mm.
And when I was very small, I have this very clear memory, like every night when I would go to bed, the song that we would sing, this is like the deepest cut I could possibly give you. So it's this Barbara Streisand song, and it's called, I had to look it up because I never knew what what it really was. So it's called Sweet Zoo,
Sweet
and
Zoo.
it's hilarious. It's hilarious. She
Okay.
recorded it in like 1968, and she sings it when you hear the recording of it, she's like not masking her Brooklyn accent yet. This is young Streisand.
Yeah.
And it's just like this silly song that is about a dream about being different animals. And then at the end of it, it's like, I enjoy it, like saying like at the end of it, I just want to be myself. And but the punchline being, I enjoy being an oyster. So the whole time an oyster was singing the song about lions and bears and dancing bears. And it's just a very silly song. And I love it. And so we sang it together all the time. And so now I've been listening to it. I'd never heard a recording of it before. I had only ever heard my mom sing it.
How did the recording compare?
It's pretty great. Like my mom stayed pretty true to the even and there's like a little ad lib in there, like alligator, crocodile, alligator. Like there's like this back and forth about it. And she would do, and we would do it like as a bit together when we would sing it.
I want to listen to that. So you are a writer on Sesame Street. Did you grow
I
up watching Sesame Street?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm Gen X, and I was definitely squarely in their demographic for like where my needs were at, and like it was great for me as a kid who like we were struggling when I was little. So we didn't have a lot of access to things, but we always had like books in the house and music in
Hmm.
the house, and I always had Sesame Street. So I had this like hunger for words and language. And again, going back to my nana, she always wanted to be a school teacher. But being an immigrant, she had to leave school when she was like 13 or something, to help take care of the family. And she like worked in a sweatshop and all this. So she never got to do any of those things she wanted to do. So when she got me, the youngest grandchild, she basically got to play teacher to me. So she would like, before I could even read and write, she would write things out for me and I would just sit and copy them, or she would like write out a word and make me pick out words from that word. It's like just little games like that, um, that really like propelled me into really being hungry for that knowledge. And so Sesame Street, when I was a kid, really helped me with that because it gave me additional games like sight words and that kind of real life application where they would like highlight a street sign, things that were in my real day-to-day life and in my real world as I was like taking the bus with my mom, and like, when my mom was going to nursing school, going to school with my mom in Boston, and like, so it gave me that kind of access point and reference for what was possible, and to really tap into like different presentations of things that were like, I'm learning, but it's fun. So it taps into that like Jeopardy nerd of me. Like that's, so it was definitely like also a huge part of like the basis of my sense of humor
Hmm.
is very Jim Henson coded, between Sesame Street and then later The Muppet Show.
Did you ever think you would grow up writing for Sesame Street? Was that a goal, or did it just happen that way?
It just that it's wild. It's wild. So I always knew I wanted to be a writer. I was a weird little kid who would like I said, like playing with like word games, and my mom's typewriter was like my favorite toy. Like that, you're a weird kid. What are you doing? I would fill notebooks with stories, and so I always knew I wanted to be a writer. And so I went to college for writing. That was like my entire focus. And when I moved back to New York City, it was just kind of like, okay, I gotta get a big girl job and figure my life out. And I got placed through like an employment agency, like a temp agency basically, but for long-term positions, I got placed with this company that was like a media, um, they like licensed properties. And so I was the assistant to like the one of the owners of the company, and they managed properties like the Very Hungry Caterpillar Eric Carle estate, which,
Oh
as
yeah.
being from Massachusetts, I was very familiar, so that was exciting. Olivia the pig, very cute. Uh, Mr. Men, those like little
Oh yeah.
stick figurey looking from the 70s, like very, so that was the resurgence of them was when I was there. And then while I was there, we were also doing like Octonauts and Max and Ruby, Gaspard and Lisa, so like all these children's properties. And I was working there with another woman who was running scripts for them internally because they were doing a lot with outside animation houses. And so they needed like a go-between. And then I was helping her out a lot, organizing those materials for the bosses. And so down the line, when she went on to another job, she was like, you should just come with me and work on this kids show that I'm doing. And so I ended up going with her over to Johnny and the Sprites for
Hmm.
Disney. And the funny thing about that was that that was my first in studio experience. It's at Kaufman Astoria Studios. And we shared a lot of crew and a lot of talent with Sesame Street. So I got to
Oh.
meet all these puppeteers long before I met them on Sesame Street. It was really funny. My first day on Sesame Street, someone brought me down to introduce me. And I walked onto set, and like a bunch of the crew were like, Jen! And they were like, I guess you know everybody already. I was like, yeah, we were. I worked with them on this show and them on this show. So it was really, really fun. But we did sprites, and then I went off and did some MTV stuff. And it was just kind of like weaving my way around and always thinking, like, how can I be writing? How can I get my foot in the door?
Yeah.
And another funny thing is that, like, now writing for Sesame Street, one of my fellow writers was a writer on Johnny and the Sprites, but we never met because she wasn't local at the time. So I had handled her scripts, like almost 20 years ago, and now we're both writers together.
Oh,
So
funny.
it's been interesting. Yeah. So I was running their script department. That was like how I finally ended up there, was working my way up the ranks and getting called up to be their script supervisor, which I did for 16 years. And just being that liaison and kind of like organizing the writing schedule and doing like the nuts and bolts behind the scenes, editing scripts, and always writing and like pitching my stuff, submitting my stuff to things. And they did an in-house competition for pitches for like a little for like a show if you were going to do a show for one of our characters. And so I wrote this pitch for Oscar, and it was a blind pitch, no names on anything. And out of like over 200 submissions, I won the whole thing.
Wow,
And
that's
so
so
after that,
cool.
I was like, you got to let me write now, right?
Yeah. Getting back to the playlist, what is a song from a concert experience that stands out to you?
Okay. I have I have a good one for this one. So my favorite one. Okay. So in the 90s, my best friend and I and her boyfriend at the time took a road trip from Boston to Virginia. One of our friends from high school was going to college. She was going to Radford. So we go and we're going to visit her. And while we're there, Fugazi is playing in an airplane hangar. And
Yes.
we go, okay, so I got to see them play in this bizarre venue. It was crazy. And they played merchandise, and it was the most electric performance I've ever experienced. Like I have goosebumps even just thinking about it. Like the whole crowd was so into it. I mean, you know, like how big they are and like what Minor Threat was for like the DC area. And like, so being that close in that kind of like DMV area, the crowd was just so into it. And it was like, we were like 16, 17 maybe. And, you know, it had the audience had like a full range of like, you know, all the old school punks and hardcore kids and straight edge people were there. Like it was just like this unbelievable, like all these different factions, but we all agree on this band. We all
Yeah.
agree on these guys. And it was just great. Like there were no fights. You know, it was like one of those kinds of like safe pit experiences where you could just be in there and like no one's crowd killing, no one's punching. You were just kind of like running, doing the circle pit and like doing like the gentle bumps. It was very like community oriented, and just the energy was just unmatched. It was incredible. It's like you're like, I can't believe I get to be here for this.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I feel I've never seen Fugazi, but I feel like I would feel safe in a mosh pit because I feel like Ian MacKaye would be the kind of guy who would like stop the show and be like, "Hey, somebody's getting beat up down there." I feel like
absolutely.
I would feel safe. Yeah. All right. What is a song that you associate with a specific activity? And you
Okay.
can pick whatever activity.
All right. I'm going with driving. One of my
Okay.
favorite driving. So I have many, as you can imagine. Like my Spotify is chaos because I have so many different playlists.
Yeah.
And my music taste is like all over the map also. I'm I'm sure you can relate. Um, but for this one, I'm gonna go with 500 Channels by Choking Victim. This is one of my
Okay.
favorite driving songs. You will speed. You I have to be careful. If I'm on the highway, this is a good time to use cruise control and just focus on your environment. Otherwise you will speed. But it's just good. It's good for singing along. It's catchy. Um, yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah. I love Choking Victim. That's a great
Yeah.
choice. I
Right.
feel like, when I do think of a driving song, I don't think of a song that will make me go slower. I feel like a
Yeah.
driving song is kind of synonymous with you might be speeding if you're listening to this. But all right, what is a song that makes you emotional?
Okay. This is the hardest one to narrow down. I was all over the board with this because so many songs make me emotional, I realize. Um, okay, so the one that I went with, it's okay, it's very specific and it's very specific version. So the okay, it's the boxer, but not the original Simon and Garfunkel version specifically, though it's good. And it's like the only one you can find. But the version that makes me cry every single time I even like think about it for too long is when Paul Simon played it on SNL right after 9/11.
Yeah,
And I had just moved away from New York in August of that year. I moved from New York City and I was living in Olympia, Washington. And that's where I was when that all happened. And woke up to my mom calling, being like, turn on your TV, turn it, like yelling through the answering machine because, of what year it was. And that I had to go home after that, like to visit. The whole thing was just obviously like super traumatic. And like I had friends that were there and that we couldn't get a hold of because the cell towers were down. So I didn't know if they were alive. And so a lot going on. And then I was flying home. It was their first show back after this happened. And so, okay, so I fly in at night, land at JFK. We fly over the city, and everything below 14th Street is black. And the towers obviously are gone. And it's the first time that I flew home to that because I would fly back all the time, when I
Hmm.
lived other places and like I had flown in before. And here it was like, and everyone on the plane was, a lot of people were seeing it for the first time for themselves with their own eyes. So that
Wow.
was intense. And then I get to my mom's house from my visit and we watched, oh, SNL's coming back tonight. And they do the whole speech about how like laughter, like we need to laugh. We need, the cities, we need this, we need each other.
Yeah.
And
That's when Giuliani or Lauren asks Giuliani, can we be funny? And he said, why start now?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly,
I
exactly.
remember that episode. Yes.
Yep,
So clearly. Yeah.
yep. And Paul Simon played the boxer,
Hmm.
just him and his acoustic guitar. And it it just it breaks me. It breaks me because it's just like that was that feeling of homesickness that I had, that feeling of like heartbreak for the city where I've now at this point I've spent more of my life in New York City than any place else I've ever lived. Um, but I had just been living there and I had been working there and I worked at a bookstore in the East or at the West Village, but I had friends that worked at the branch that was in the basement of one of the towers. It's like I had been in that bookstore with my coworkers. Like this is terrifying. So it was just like this super emotional thing to have seen flown in over that at night and to see the city blacked out like that, which I didn't see again until Sandy. When Sandy
Hmm.
hit and the city lost power, and like we were on the BQE driving, and it was like it brought me right back to that feeling of just it looks apocalyptic.
Yeah.
It takes your breath away. So that version of that song specifically reminds me of that, and it will always hit me
Yeah.
right in the feelings.
Oh, I can't even imagine. What is a song you associate with a milestone in your life?
Okay, so milestone. This again was it's difficult to narrow down, but this felt very appropriate. So I'm gonna go with Rainbow Connection
Of
by
course.
Kermit, obviously.
Such a
Um,
great song.
yeah, and I this works for me. This is also a song that makes me emotional, by the way. So that was like, which category does it fit? Um, because they played it at Jim Henson's funeral, everyone got up and sang it on the stage, and like that is just like a core memory of like I watched that on TV, never knowing I was going to know these people in real life, and
Yeah.
it's a whole thing. But it not only does it connect back to like my entire childhood of being, raised on Muppets and being obsessed with like all the Muppet movies growing up. And then getting to be on Sesame Street and getting like I got to see Elvis Costello sing Rainbow Connection with Kermit on our set. Like that was the craziest day for me. Like
Yeah.
Declan McManus spoke to me in the breakfast line and then sang on the stage with Kermit. And I was just like, what is my life right now?
Have you met a lot of famous musicians on set?
Yeah, yeah. God. And I've also like recommended a lot. So like one of my favorite times of year would always be like getting the email being like, okay, guys, if you have any recommendations, of who we should try to get,
Oh,
um,
wow.
yeah. And sometimes they take your suggestions, sometimes they don't. A lot of mine, I would try to be like ahead of the curve, knowing that it takes so long for the show to get out.
Yeah.
Um, but the funny thing has been for me when people I suggested like 10 years ago, they finally book them like now, and it's like, I told you, I knew she was going to make it.
This would be my favorite part of the job. I didn't realize that this was a thing. I would be preparing all year for this email.
Oh my God, yeah. I would keep a list, all of us. Like we would all have like our
Yeah.
little sheet of like, oh, it's got to be that, you know. And for all the celebrities, like it's a big process and there's like a whole panel that has to approve even before anyone gets approached.
Mhm.
But to have that kind of like wish list of it would be so fun if we could get them, you know. It's a dream. So
What's like a song by somebody that you would love to get on Sesame Street that you haven't got yet?
one of mine, and honestly, it could be any of her songs, but this one is just like it fits so well. And she even does have children's songs specifically. But that said, I would go with My Roller Coaster by Kimya Dawson.
Ooh, I
I
love her so much.
love her. And the irony of it all, okay, another tangent. Kimya and I have a slew of friends in common.
Hmm.
We never met each other in Olympia. We were ships in the night. When she was in town, I wasn't, vice versa, right? So we never met, even though we have people like one of my coworkers is like somebody that was like took care of her child and like we know each other so closely, like just in proximity. We never spoke or in real life or anything until TikTok. She reached out to me at one point because it turns out when I started at Sesame Street, there was like this kind of changing of the guards was happening. And my friend Bill Sherman was taking over as the music director at the time. And so there was like kind of upheaval and things were kind of up in the air. Well, in that shuffle, she had been working on a project for the show that kind of just fell apart. And I was like, oh my God, I know exactly why. Like that got lost in the shuffle because this staffing change was happening. And this is Bill Sherman of Hamilton fame. And like I keep teasing him that like he's gonna EGOT any minute now. He just needs an Oscar. That's all he needs. Like I'm pulling for him.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so I was like, that's what happened. Like Bill was overwhelmed. He was trying to, you know, juggle a million things and get all these recordings done and whatever, and it just fell by the wayside. So it's always been like my personal mission to be like, I need to do something with her. Like she's
Yes.
perfect for
Yeah.
this.
That'd be so great. I remember very specifically this girl that was in my math class in community college that I put Moldy Peaches on a mixtape for her, and she became obsessed. This was before
Yeah.
Juno, by the way. I want my street cred. I was
Oh
in
yeah,
on Moldy Peaches real early. Yeah,
that's
I've
fantastic.
loved her ever since. I love her solo stuff. Like she would be so great on Sesame Street. It'd be
Right?
perfect.
Like
Yeah.
to me, I feel like it's a no-brainer. You know, even I don't know if you saw this, but when she opened for My Chemical Romance in Washington, so her and her daughter Panda, they performed together, and I posted about it at the time, but they were wearing like their Ernie shirts, like the
Mm.
stripes. It was so cute. I was like, that is literally Ernie's shirt, and you both have it, and this is fantastic. I sent it to everyone at work. It's like, please look at how amazing this is.
Yeah. All right. What is a song that features some of your favorite lyrics?
This is the hardest one for me to narrow down. I have been all over the
You
board
said
and
that
back and
already
forth.
about, I think, a couple of these, but
I know. I swear this one was the worst because I even if you look at my notes, I have like there are arrows and cross outs and just I couldn't make up my mind.
this is
Uh,
why you're perfect for this show, because this is exactly how
it's
I
like
would be. And it is supposed to be hard. Like
yeah,
picking the perfect one for a mixtape is hard, and then tomorrow you'll be like, I would have had totally different answers. Definitely part of
exactly. I keep thinking of High Fidelity if you've ever read it and or
it.
seen
Yeah.
the movie version,
Oh
but like
yeah.
his all his top five lists. This is how my brain works. But okay, so for lyrics, let me see where I actually landed. Okay, so I'll tell you where I landed, and then I'll tell you my alts. I landed on Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues,
So amazing.
right?
Speaking of SNL, they just did a cover of it last Christmas.
Yes, it was
It was
great.
Hosier did it.
Yeah. And
Amazing.
see, now this is also a song that a version of it makes me emotional. We have intersectionality happening here. There's overlap. Did you see after Shane passed away, there was like that video going around of the two strangers singing from like one the
No,
woman was like up in the window and there was like some guy down in the street in Dublin.
no. Oh no, I haven't seen that.
It makes me sob. It's so beautiful. It was like I think the guy on the street was singing it and she heard him and came to the window and she was recording him and then she started singing with him. It's so beautiful. It's so good. It'll make you teary. It was like just the best tribute to him when he passed.
That is my favorite Christmas song, and I love, and it does kind of make me emotional too. And I love it's like a Christmas song, but it's also the lyrics are hilarious and dirty, and like
Hmm.
it's and Shane McGowan does not have the prettiest voice, but that gets me. Like the emotion in it is beautiful to me. Like
Yeah,
love it.
there's like that
And
raw.
Kirsty MacColl, of course, is amazing too.
I mean, yes, goes without saying. Yeah, yeah, just like, and also I love the contrast of her singing voice with him,
Yeah.
like to have that like beautiful songbird and then this guy.
Yeah. What is a song that you think people might be surprised to find out that you like?
Okay. I'm a broken record. This was also difficult, Patrick. This is very, it's hard to narrow down. So again, all over the board. Now it's like, if you know me, nothing would surprise you. You'd be like,
Right.
she could say, a Hank Williams song or New Orleans Zydeco, or it could be anything, right? Um, but I have a song I unironically love Rich Girl from Hall and Oates.
Yes.
Unironically, like I
Yeah.
listen to it all the time, all the time.
What is a song that you love that somebody else introduced you to?
This is a great one. So this we were talking about how like now you can just look stuff up. This is the best example of this. So I in high school got a mixtape from a friend of mine. And in retrospect, he may have liked me, and I did not know this. And I had a crush on him, but he did not know this. So star-crossed ships in the night,
No.
we biffed that whole thing. So he gave me this mixtape. It was my favorite mixtape for like a decade until I lost it. So I lost the tape, and this one song haunted me because I could never find another recording of it. I couldn't
No.
find like any official release of it. So I
Hmm.
didn't know what it was. All I knew was on this mixtape, Eddie Vedder was singing it. And so I didn't know if it was his. I didn't know if it was actually Pearl Jam, if it
Hmm.
was like from one of their B-sides, because this kid that gave me this was like in their fan club where they would get like the special releases of things that other people couldn't get. So I was torturing myself for years. And then a couple of years ago, just literally like I was in my 40s. So I got this mixtape when I was like 16, 17 years old. In my 40s, I finally was like, I bet I could find that now.
Yeah.
And sure than
Did you find
shit.
it?
The song is Throw Your Arms Around Me, the Eddie Vedder version. It's him covering Hunters and Collectors, a band that I didn't know existed.
No, never heard of them. Never heard of this track. Okay.
It's so his version of it. There's a version of, okay, the version on my mixtape is not the version you can find
Hmm.
that is Eddie Vedder. So there is an Eddie Vedder album release version he did where it's him and the guy from Hunters and Collectors doing it together. And it's a very nice version. It's still not the version I had on that mixtape. So I'm still on the hunt. So if anyone knows if that was on a B side from the 90s, send it my way. I need it. I
Yeah.
need it. It's
Or
so good.
some kind of fan club exclusive or something.
I think it might have been. It had to have been because it was like, where else would he have gotten this?
Do you still talk to this guy?
No, no, we
All the
lost
time.
touch after high school. We didn't have the internet
Yeah.
back then.
Have you
You know,
tried to track him down? Ask
I
where he
think
got
I
it?
Googled him probably
Hmm.
around the time I was looking for that song, and couldn't find him. So I don't know. I don't know what
Maybe
happened to him.
he's
Maybe he like became CIA or something.
maybe
Uh,
he's watching this right now. I was
Oh my
like,
God, that would be crazy.
I'll
Like,
send you the
hi,
song.
Adam.
What about the other way? What's a song that you love that you introduced somebody else to?
So this one, I put this on a mixtape for my now husband when we first started dating. We had been dating for a few months and we were going on a trip. And I got him, like, we're both mixtape nerds, and are very much like nostalgic for mixtapes. So what I did was I found a little recorder that looks like a cassette tape,
Oh,
but you
cool.
could put, yeah, you could put digital music on it. So I made him a mixtape for the trip for him to listen to when we were on the plane, because we were going to California. So we were driving, flying across the country. You got all the time in the world. Here's a mixtape, and one of the songs I put on it is "Lay It Down" by Al Green. And then that also then ended up on my wedding playlist years later when we made it and actually decided to, make it official. So that's like a romantic nostalgic one, more for me, I think, than I don't know if you would even remember that it's on there, but it's a great song.
All right. What is the most recent song that you've fallen in love with?
So the most recent song that I've fallen in love with is not a new song,
That's
and it's not
totally.
even new to me, but it's taken hold of my spirit. So it's The Promise from When in Rome. I'm just like on a loop with this. It's like new wave and just this very specific flavor of 80s that just like scratches an itch for me. I don't know what it is. It's just I'm obsessed with it. I listen to it
I
at
don't know.
least once a day.
Okay, I don't know if I know the song. Is it from the 80s?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's so good.
I gotta
Did
listen to it.
you
Maybe it's a song I know but don't know the name of.
it, yeah, you'll hear it and you'll be like, "Oh, it's that song."
Yeah,
Um
okay, okay.
have you seen Lisa Frankenstein?
No, no, I've been
Oh,
meaning
it's
to,
so
but
good. It's so good. It's on that soundtrack.
okay.
So the music in that movie is pretty fantastic. They have a good soundtrack.
This went way too fast. I can't believe we're at the end of the playlist, but your playlist is fantastic. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for agreeing to do this.
yeah, of course.
Do you have anything to promote right now?
What do I have to promote? Yes. So this year, this summer, I have my very first full episode of Sesame Street premiering. The name of the episode, unless they change it, they sometimes the networks will like tweak it, or whatever. But it's Neve's New Do, and it's the Gaelic, the Irish spelling of Neve. So it's don't be thrown off by it's like why is there an M and an H in there? Trust me. But yes, so it's great. And if you see the sizzle reel for the season, there is like a clip from it with Jonathan Van Ness, who's in my episode.
Oh,
I'm
that's
very excited. It was such a great experience. Check out my website and my TikTok. I'm always out there doing stuff. Trying to finish a book that I'm writing.
well, I'll have to have you back on when the book comes out. Maybe there'll be new questions, or maybe I'll just ask the same ones and you can use your alternates. You'll have different answers for all of them by then.
That'd be so good.
All right, well, Jen, thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was super fun, and I will come back anytime you'll have me.
You've heard the stories, now hear the songs. Go to wherever you listen to music, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, and you can listen to today's guest's personalized playlist if you search for the guest list with Patrick Hicks.